I'm Nanette Ward. I'm with the Stop Human Trafficking Coalition of Central Missouri. I serve on the board. I also have the privilege of having been a founding member of the coalition back in 2008. Currently also serve as someone who works directly with survivors as a volunteer case manager. There was a conference held by a student organization back in 2008 at MU, at the University of Missouri, on human trafficking, and I was able to attend as a citizen and working for the Human Rights Commission at that time. The leadership of the student organization thought it would be good to have a community-based group that could continue the work to fight human trafficking based on our initial understanding of the problem at that conference. And so a group was formed as a result of that conference, and we worked in partnership with the student organization. That organization no longer exists, but we have continued for the last 12 years, starting with that mission of educating and using education as a way to prevent human trafficking, raising awareness. And ultimately, there was a necessity to work directly with victims and survivors who are right here in Central Missouri. The goal of the coalition is to prevent and to end exploitation of children, women, and men in forced labor and commercial sexual exploitation. We do that by community education, free programs to educate groups of all different types and sizes on what human trafficking is and how to identify and notice the signs of human trafficking and identify victims in the community. And we also come alongside survivors and victims of human trafficking in their journey towards exiting, towards being free, and to recovering from their exploitation in forced labor or sexual exploitation. So in terms of a person who's newly exited, donations mean everything. Whether it's donation of funds that allow us to provide that emergency shelter in an extended stay. If a domestic violence shelter has no room, there's no opening, we are able to immediately put them into an extended stay. I have seen women literally fall to their knees in an extended stay room because they see the safety, they see a bed, a TV, a bathroom where no one is going to bother them, no one's going to tell them what to do, and no one is going to exploit them sexually. It's an amazing sanctuary, temporary, emergency, safe place until we can get them into a more long-term housing situation. Donations also help us enable those survivors to get into an apartment, to get that deposit and first month's rent paid, to get them clothing for them to interview for a job. The volunteers you've heard about, get them to those interviews, get them to that first job. Help them with the understanding the money management even, because they haven't maybe even had their own money to know what to do with it. They might have food stamps, but that's not enough food. There's still food insecurity with food stamps. Or they might not have food stamps, and we're providing all of the food for them to have nourishment, to have that basic need. We buy phones for them to make sure they have access to us, to all their other providers, to law enforcement, to safety, and we pay for the phone service. And it may be for months, because imagine waking up in your own bedroom. I know you hopefully are listening and you have a safe place that you live and sleep. Imagine waking up to an empty nothing. You have no clothes, you have no phone, you don't know what's out there, who to go to, who's safe. You have no food, you have nothing. And sometimes that's what we are dealing with these individuals who exit this criminal activity called human trafficking. And those donations do all of those things: that safe shelter, their food, their bus back to whatever state they came from. Those donations make it possible for that person to be stable and safe during that time period.
Hi, I'm Jamie Proyle, and I'm a volunteer with the Stop Human Trafficking Coalition of Central Missouri. As a volunteer, I've developed relationships with some of the survivors through, spending time in the car with them and just talking life in general. And it does matter. It is a meaningful volunteer position, probably the most meaningful that I've had in a long time. There are a couple of success stories I would like to talk about the survivors. One, I've seen her go from living in a hotel to living in a house. She has a job. It seems like her life is on a forward motion where things are getting better for her all the time. I've seen changes in her behavior. She seems to be more trusting. This particular one that I'm talking about now, her children seem very settled, very kind. So I believe that that's a reflection of the growth that she's made through, or along with the help that the coalition has given her.
Because human trafficking is still relatively unknown in many professional organizations and medical organizations, we might know about it, but we don't necessarily know what to do about it. We don't know the protocol. What do we do if we identify someone? How do they get help? What are the resources? That's why it's so critical that our organizations get donations, is in the end, when there's something not available through another agency, we are the go-to organization that can come through with whatever it might be. We don't have the same restrictions that other agencies might have, because we step in for funds for whatever it might be that's standing in the way of that individual moving forward, of them being safe, of them being productive, of them being healthy. We can step in with whatever that might be and help provide the funds for that through your donations.